Okay, guys, so we are going to be looking at your mental math. So we're essentially going to be doing some number reasoning, which is going to help you out with some of the topics that we're going to do further on in the year as well. So it's just a little bit of a recap and recheck of what you've done, and just to make sure you are on top of it. Obviously, use the classroom comments to help each other out if needs be, or you can just use it to ask me what's going on. It's all good. Okay, so today... First of all, before we get on with this sheet, I would like to know if you have any techniques of finding out this. Without the use of a calculator, how would I find out these in a nice, easy way that someone else could also do it? Okay, obviously, times by one, not really expecting it. If anyone says it's the same, yeah, I know, it's all good. Okay, doubling it, I think quite a lot of people know how to double it quite well. And I think times by 3, you guys are relatively good at multiplying by 3 anyway. Okay, what about the rest of them? What would I do? So if you want to pause, maybe talk to each other, and then, or maybe pop a comment into the classroom, and then come back and we'll see what kind of things you have. Okay, so a nice way to do 4, you can double and then you can double again. Okay, if it's a really big number, I usually use this technique because I'm a bit like, oh, just double it and double it again. It's too much to times everything by 4 right now. Okay, so it's just a nice, easy way to do your mental math, especially if you're not feeling up to doing your 4 times table. For 5, what I usually do when I'm doing it by 5 is I will initially half the number that I have, and then I will multiply it by 10. Okay, so say if I wanted 8 times 5, I would say, well, 8, half it becomes 4, times by 10, it becomes 40. Okay, what if I had 70 times 5? Then, well, 70 divided by 2 is 35, and times by 10, which is 350. Okay, so it's a nice, easy way of just working out the 5 times table without having to use a calculator. Okay, so 6 times table. Okay, I do times 3 and then I multiply it by 2 after. So you could do it the other way around. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. I just prefer to do it this way because I can. Okay, the 7 times table is usually the trickiest one. This is why they say if you know your 7 times table, you have essentially conquered your times tables. So 7 times table is usually the tricky one. If I had to do it mentally, then what I usually do is I multiply the number by 5, then I multiply it by 2, and then I add those two numbers together. That's the way I do it. I know it's chunking, but I can do that mentally, so that's the reason why I do it. Other people will go for the other way and usually times by 10 and then take away 5 lots. Some people times it by 5 and then add 1 lot and then add another lot, which is perfectly fine. This is just a mental way of doing things. Okay, for your 8 times table, you may notice that you have 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So all you need to do is times 2, and then just times 2 again. So just double it, and then double it again, okay? You usually notice the same for this when I'm finding an 8th as well. So I would half something. So if I have a pizza and I want to find an 8th, I'd half it, then I'd half it again, and then each of these pieces would also be halved, and that would give me an 8th, okay? And you just use the same technique, but it's the other way around. So rather than dividing it by 2, I'm multiplying it by 2 all the time. And then you have your 9 times table. The way I usually work this out is I multiply something by 10, and then I take off 1 lot of it. So say I wanted to do, 9 times 12. Let's go 9 times 12. So I know 10 times 12 is 120. I know 1 times 12 is 12. And then if I find the difference, that's 108, okay? That's the reason why I use it, because it's nice and easy for me to do. Okay, so today is going to be a little bit different. So I'm essentially expecting you to pause between me answering a question. So we're going to try and see how it goes today, because I know there's quite a few people that seem to be getting confused, but they're not reaching out. So we're going to try this, and then I'm going to ask you to tell me how it goes. Okay, so when we go through a question, you might want to pause, you might want to discuss, you might want to think, you might want to write down some sort of ideas, and then we'll just go through the answers, okay? Just make sure you're pausing, because if you're not pausing, you're essentially just listening to me give you answers and you're not learning anything from that, okay? So make sure you pause. Think about it maybe. If there's anyone next to you, talk to them. If you're talking to any of your friends, talk to them about it. And then try and see if your answer coincides with mine. And if it doesn't, you might want to put it in class comments, because as I've always said, there's always more than one way of getting to many answers. So if you've got an idea and I haven't thought about it, share it. It might be that we all learn something new, okay? So first of all, we have a wonderful Tommy. Tommy wants to multiply a 26 by 6, and he says he can see from the bar model that he can work this out by multiplying by 2 and then multiplying by 3. So you've got the bar model right there, so you might want to pause and try and see if you can understand why he said that. Okay, I'm sure you unpaused by now. So all you need to do is, if I look at that top line, it's got 6 slots of 26. So that's his 26 times 6, right? But if I double each of those, you would notice these blocks. Okay, sorry, these are not the right size. I've just noticed that. So I've got this. This is my 26 times 6, right? But you will notice that each of the next blocks is double the block above. So when he's saying I can multiply by 2, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about these blocks being multiplied by 2. So these ones being multiplied by 2 makes it the 52. And then what's the next step he does? He then multiplies it by 3. So I take all of this and I multiply it by 3 and I get my 156. And because I was asking you not to use a calculator, just so you know, the way I did this in my head was I said 50 times 3 equals 150. And then I had 2 times 3, which equals 6, and then I just added them up, okay? So if you can't do 52 times 3, break it down. I've got 50 times 3, I've got 2 times 3, I'm going to add them together. Okay, for this next part down here, it says fill in the missing values on the bar model. Explain why multiplying by 2 and then multiplying by 3 is the same as multiplying by 6. Much easier than they're making it sound. They've given you a lot of space to write down something. You have to remember, sometimes they give you a lot of space because people like writing essays. You do not actually have to write an essay though. Me, personally, I would just say 2 times 3 equals 6. So if I multiply by 2, then I multiply by 3. I've got 6 lots of it, right? That's fine. That's all you need. You don't need 2 lines for it. Okay, the next part says, how else could you work out 26 times 6 mentally? This answer is going to vary according to what you guys have yourselves. So if you, did I mention it? I can't remember. But another way of timesing by 6 is by saying, well, it's times by 5, and then I'm going to add a times by 1. So if I did 26 times 5 in my head, the first thing I do is I half this, which is 13, then times it by 10, which is 130. And then all I have to do is 130 plus 26, which is 156. That is one method that you could use to get to the 156, but I'm sure you guys will come up with quite a few more. Okay, so next we have Eva, Mo, and Alex, and we kind of need to think about what they're talking about. So they're saying they're going to multiply 32 by 8. So Eva she did 30 times 8 and then 2 times 8. Mo doubled 32, he doubled it again, and then he doubled it again. So Eva is saying, well, to make 32 times 8, I'm going to do 30 times 8 and 2 times 8. Okay, so altogether this makes 32 times 8 once I add them up. So Eva's method is perfectly fine. Mo's method is he's going to double, then he's going to double, then he's going to double. Can you remember what we did at the beginning? What does that become? So 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So he's going to get to 8 times table as well. And then Alex is going to do 4 times 2, which is also 8. Okay? So it does tell you you just need to explain why this works. So if you do want to just draw a bar model, you can do that. That's reasonable explanation. But if you do want to draw a bar model, then you would say, well, if you times by 2, then you times that by 2 again, then you times all of that by 2, it becomes 8. Okay? I don't know why I drew it as a whole bottom model. Okay. Say I have a number, then I times by 2, right? And then I take that number and I'm going to multiply it by 2 again. And then I take all of those and then I multiply it by 2. That's times by 8, okay? I'm sorry, I kind of went from the answer back to the question. I should have gone from the question to the answer. So that's a better one. But those 8 bars should hopefully, in the way we did it, should hopefully make sense to you. Okay, and then it says work out 32 times 8 using each method. Which method did you prefer? This one is going to be personally up to you. I'm not really sure which way you want to use. So you can use any which way. I think I'm just going to do 32 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 32 times 2 is 64. And then timesing it by 2 again is 128. And then times it by 2 again, which is 256. And if you have any geeks amongst you that like your binary numbers, you will know that you kind of have bytes and they keep doubling, and 256 is a very common one. Okay, next they are asking you to write out the factors of 24. A nice easy way of working out factors is not to just go through all the factors that you know, is to actually go through by pairs. So I would expect you to kind of think of pairs. So I would say 1 times something would get me 24. What is that number? It would be 1 times 24. Okay. 2 times something, what is that number? It will be 2 times 12. Okay. I hope you guys pause before you're watching me do the answer. Just a reminder, because I know I keep forgetting. Okay. And then you have 3 times something equals 24, which is 8. And then you have 4 times 6, okay? 5 times nothing there, and then you've got 6. The reason why I do it in this fashion is so that I never miss any factors. Because by doing this, and then using the pair with it and writing those down, I know that I haven't got any gaps and I've got all 8 of the factors that I need. It's just a nice, easy way of getting your factors written down. Okay, so it says use factors to work out 24 times 25 in your head. Ooh, what would you do? Okay, so there are several ways of doing this. I hope you guys paused. If you haven't, pause now. Okay. I'm personally going to use that technique because I know 24 times 25 is the same as saying 6 times 4 equals 25. What is 4 times 25? It's 100. And 6 times 100 is 600. Okay, this is just one of those things where I'm just breaking down numbers to help me find other numbers. Another way of doing this is you could have broken down the 25 into 5 times 5, and then I could have said, well, 4 times 5 is 20, 6 times 5 is 30, and then done it that way as well, which would have worked out, okay? So there were a multitude of ways of doing it. I just chose it this way. So if you did choose to say 6 times 4 times 5 times 5 and chosen to do this as 20 times 30 and that equals 600, that would have worked as well, okay? So there are a multitude of ways that you could have done it. It's just a way to help and make it easier for you. I just saw 100 and I went straight for 100. Okay, so in regards to this one up here, you shouldn't actually need to work out the answer to see if it's something that connects. So it's saying, tick the calculation that does not give the answer 32 times 18. So I know 32 times 18 is my number. So if I start going through the different ones that they've given us, so they've got 16 times 9 times 2 times 2, okay? Me, I would say, well, 16 times 2 is 32. 9 times 2 is 18. So is it going to be the same? Well, yes, this one it would work for. So it's definitely not that one. Okay, so the next one says 8 times 8 times 9. Okay, this one seems a little bit different because you're a bit like, well, I can't get those numbers out of these. Well, just think about it a little bit differently. And I would say, what times 9 equals 18? 2. So can I get a 2 out of any of these? Well, yes, I can actually. So instead of writing 8 times 8, I'm going to put 8 times 4 times 2 times 9 because I know 4 times 2 is 8, so it's still exactly the same. 2 times 9 is 18, 4 times 8 is 32. Is it still the same thing? Yes. Okay, what about the third one? I've got 9 times 8 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so otherwise you could go for the 32 or the 18. I like my 9 times table. This is the reason why I usually go for 18 first. So I'm going to say, well, those two make 18. What about the rest of them? 8 times 2 is 16. Times by 2 again is 32. If you cannot do it in one step, I would have said 16 times 2. And then on the next step, I would have said 18 times 32. Okay? But this is also the same. So from that, from eliminating them, you can probably find out that the fourth one was incorrect. But we do like to double check these things. So I've got 30 times 2 times 10 times 8. Okay, does that work? Well, no, because 30 times 2 is 60 and 10 times 8 is 80. And that just doesn't work at all. I don't have a 32 in there. In the way to make 32, I would have like 16. I was just like 30 has a factor of 15. None of these things have a factor of 5. So this would it wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. Okay? So what they should have done, if anyone felt like saying, oh, actually, I can see what they did, if it was about seeing the mistakes, you would have seen that it would be that, okay? So if you'd done that because you could see that's what they were meant to be writing, well done to you. Okay, and then it says use one of the above, or use one of them to work it out. Okay, I don't know which one you want to use. You can use whichever one you want. I'm just gonna go 9 times 8 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so I know this makes 8, so that's 8 times 8. I know this is 64, so that's 9 times 64. I know 10 times 64 equals 640. I know 1 times 64 is 64. And then all I need to do is find the difference. So I do that, and then 10 take away 4 is 6. 13 take away 6 is 7, and then that is my answer. Okay, so I don't mind which way you worked it out. I probably have worked it out in a completely different way to you guys. Whichever way you worked it out, that's fine. If some of you worked 32 times 20 and then taken away 2 lots, that would have worked out as well. Okay, so do it whichever way you want. You don't have to do it exactly the same way I do. Okay, so what does the next thing say? Here are 3 methods for working out 24 times 12. Tick the method you prefer. Talk to a partner about why you prefer this method. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is just look at those methods. Are they methods that you like, don't like? Which one do you prefer? And maybe put a reason as to why you prefer it. Okay? So let's just go through each of them because, hey, I like doing numbers. 24 by 6 and then by 2. Yep, that would work because it's 24 times 12 because you got 24 times 12 if I collect them together. Okay, next one is 12 times 12 times 2. Ooh, that's quite a nice one. Okay, so 24 times 12. This would be my 24. This would be my 12, so that works out as well. And then you've got 12 times 8 times 3. Okay, this one would have this be your 24, and this would still be your 12. Okay, I don't know which way you prefer. Personally, I like this one because I know my 12 squared is 144 times 2, which is nice and easy. It gets me 288. Okay, so I'm not sure which way you prefer, but whichever way you preferred would have given you the method that you wanted. Okay, so down here, oops, sorry, down here, there you go, down here, complete the calculations. So what they're asking you to do is just break it down a little bit. So you've got 37 times 20. So a nice easy way to times by 20 is to first times it by 2, then times by 10. So first of all, I would say, well, 37 times 2 times 10. So 37 times 2 would be, dun, dun, dun. I don't know why I'm making this weird sound as if you guys can hear me. Okay, but that is 74 times 10, which is 740. Okay, and then for the next one, can you fill out that missing box? So they're saying 16 times 40 is the same as me saying 16 times 2 times 2. Well, this makes 4. So what do I have to multiply by 4 to get back to that 40? That's the key. Okay, so you have to times it by 10. So 16 times 2 is 64. Okay, so this is 32. So I've got 32 times 2 times 10. Sorry. And then this is 64 times 10, which is 640. Okay, next one. So for C, I've got 30 times 49 is the same as 49, and then they've got 2 other boxes. So it's that 30. I need to break that 30 down. What would I do with that 30? Well, I would say I'm going to times it by 3, then I'm going to times it by 10. Okay? So 49 times 3 is 147. Okay? If you couldn't see this 147, all you have to mentally think about is what is 49? That's 50, take away 1. So the way I did it was I said 50 times 3 is 150. 1 times 3 is 3. And then when you take them away from each other, you get 147. Okay, so you've got 1,470 as your answer. Okay, and then the next one is 32 times 300. Okay, so now I've got 2 missing boxes. They have given me the 32. I just need to find these 2 missing boxes. So the 32 is already there, but this 300 isn't. So what 2 numbers can I multiply to go into 300? Well, I can times it by 3, then I can times it by 100. So 32 times 3, so 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 3 is 6, so 96 times 100 is 9,600. Okay, hopefully this made sense and it's making it slightly quicker for you guys to do your math. Okay, so for this next one, it's saying find 3 different ways to multiply 16 by 50. So I hope you guys are pausing and finding your own techniques. But there are a variety of ways that you could be doing this. Okay, so I've got 16 times 50. Okay, well, one way I would do this is I would say, well, it's 16 times 5 times 10. So 16 times 5 is 80, times 10 is 800. Okay, that's method number 1. Another method I might want to do is instead of saying 16, I'm going to break that down because I know 50 times 2 is 100. So I'm going to say 8 times 2 times 50. So then this means I've got 8 times 100, which is 800. Okay. Another way. Ooh, gotta think of another way. Okay, so I have 16 times 50. Ooh, there's another way of doing it. So I am going to completely break it down because I can. 2 times 2 times 2, okay? Times 5 times 5 times 2. That's a nice one. Okay, so I've got 25 there. And then I've got 4 here. Okay, 4 times 25 is 100. Times 2 times 2. Okay, so that is, have I missed anything? It's 4. I've missed one out, but where have I missed it? Oh yeah, sorry. 16, it's not 8. What am I doing? What am I like? Okay, so we've got 100 times 2 times 2 times 2. I'm going to collect all those 2's together. So you've got 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. 8 times 100 is 800. Okay, those are just 3 methods I found out. If you found out any others, please share them with the rest of the class. It's just the way I just thought about it. Okay, so we have 8. Okay, so it says the bar model helps you divide 264 by 6. Okay, so first of all, what are they doing? They're putting it into 2 pieces. That's divided by 2. And then each of those pieces is going to be divided into 3. So this is my 264. And if I divide that by 2, then I've got 132 on each side. And then I'm putting it into 3 pieces. Okay, so I've got it into 3 pieces. 132. I think it's 44, but I am going to check. How many 3's go into 1, 0? So carry the 1 across. How many 3's go into 13? 4. Carry 1 across. How many 3's go into 12? 4. So it's 44. Okay, and then you've got 9 and 10. Okay, try and do 9 and 10 by yourselves, and then obviously we're going to try and finish it all. Okay, so number 9, use factors to work out these divisions mentally. Show each step of your thinking. Okay, so I've got 124 divided by 4. So I'm going to do 124 divided by 2, then divide by 2 again. So 124 divided by 2 is 62. And then 62 divided by 2 is 31. Okay, so next one, divide it by 12. So 276 divided by 12. Well, I'm going to break that down into, so 12 equals 4 times 3, but I can break this down into 2 and 2. So I'm going to divide it by 2, because I'm just going to do it by these, and then I'm going to divide by 2 again, then I'm going to divide by 3. Okay, so 276 divided by 2 is 138. Okay, so still got to divide by 2, and I've still got to divide by that 3. Then do 138 divided by 2, which is 69, and then do 69 divided by 3, which is 65 by 3, 23. Okay, nice and easy. And then you have 3, 5, 2 divided by 16. Okay, so 16 is just 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So it's just 4 lots of 2. So you've got 2, 5, 2 divided by 2, then divide by 2 again, and then just divide it by 2, like 4 times. So the first divide by 2 would be 150 plus 26, which is 176 divided by 2. Still got 3 of these left. Okay, divide by 2 again, which is 88. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Okay, and then you have 44 divided by 2, and then it becomes 22 overall. Okay, and then it says, show that 80 divided by 24 is equal to 3 1/3 using factors. Okay, so we're just going to use the same technique that we've already done for up here and over here. So all I need to do is break down that 24. So I've got 80 divided by 24. What can I break down 24 into? So I know the factors of 24. You should already have written these down, but just in case you need a reference. Okay, so these are the factor pairs of 24. And because I've got the number 80, I probably want to look at something. You could go for any of these smaller ones, which is perfectly fine. But if I want to make my life a little bit easier, I might look at one of these factors that coincides with 80 quite easily. So which one of these would go with 80? Well, there's one. Okay, and what's the factor pair with 80? So I know, sorry, 8. So 24 is 3 times 8. So I'm going to, instead of saying divide by 24, I'm going to say 80 divided by 8 and then divided by 3. Okay, because I'm dividing it by 8, then I'm dividing by 3, which means I've divided it 24 times overall. So 80 divided by 8 is 10, and then you've got 10 divided by 3. Okay, so 10 divided by 3, if you're thinking about your mixed numbers, this 10 divided by 3 then becomes 3 1/3. Okay, because you've got your 10 divided by 3. How many 3's go into 1? 0, so carry that one across. How many 3's go into 10? 3 of them, so you have a remainder 1. So you should know from here that you have the big 3, which is here. You're still dividing by 3, and you've got 1/3 left over, okay? And you have proven this, okay? That's a nice, easy way of doing it without actually having to think about simplifying fractions or anything else. Okay, so that should be it. I am going to leave an extension sheet for those people that just whiz through this straight away and just going through at supersonic speed, which is perfectly fine because I know YouTube can go at double speed and I do it quite often. So if you guys do it too, huzzah. I'm going to put an extension sheet as well, which is a little bit of a puzzle. So you'll start looking at your factors, multiples, and everything else as well. So it's a bit of a recap of what you've already done. Okay? And I've said okay too much, and I've just realised this, but I do hope that you guys are getting your vitamin D. Have a nice day and a great weekend, guys. Any questions, let me know. Take care.